Well, that's your exercise for tonight. Thank you very much. I shouldn't say that because after this, we get out early enough, I guess there's going to be dancing later on, so maybe that'll give you some exercise. Sheila, thank you for those kind words. As you can see, I don't have any, my tradition is not to have any prepared speeches because I'm not the type of person that would follow any script anyway. So it's better that I just speak to you as I have over the 40 years that I've been involved in this organization as a classroom teacher, president, staff member, and now executive director. You know, I don't want to go through my history of walking through the doors of East Hartford in 1969 and then the next day going out on strike. You know, that was a telling experience for me, not only as to my profession that I was getting into, but the commitment that we had to the profession and to the students we served. I gained over time the belief that I had in my heart and the time that we needed to do more as a union, as a profession, to gain the dignity and the respect of the community relative to what we do in the classroom every day and how we should be treated, compensated, and thought of by the general population. Over time, and again, it's over 40 years that I've been in a capacity as an advocate, we've had tremendous successes and we've seen, unfortunately, some failures. My friend Cliff Silvers, who you saw, we had similar experiences, but mine were in East Hartford, his were in Bridgeport. Our paths met in the CEA arena, and we shared the passion, we shared the commitment, and he's gone too soon to continue that passion and commitment, but he's left behind the individuals to pick up that passion and that commitment, and those are the people that are seated here tonight and that occupy the classrooms across the state. So when we look at our history, not only over the hundreds of years as an organization, I look at the history beginning in 1969 and what the $6,800 a year that I got as a teacher's salary and where we are today and the lack of preparation time, the lack of voice I had in the classroom and where we are today. I remember the 1978 and 79 when we went out on strike, the teachers were jailed, and by the one vote margin, we got binding arbitration passed so that none of you, hopefully in this audience, have ever spent one day on a picket line arguing over a salary or over a working condition, rather doing it while we negotiate through the collective bargaining process and you're able to teach the students in the classrooms rather than having to walk that picket line. In the 1985 era, when we went for the Education Enhancement Act, and Tom was talking about the teachers that preceded us and retired prior to that were making $20,000 a year on maximum. The advances that we've made over that period of time today to where not necessarily are we making the monies or the salaries or the compensation that we believe we should make relative to our importance in society, but we no longer literally have to apply for food stamps, as we did, as teachers had to do in those days. That advance, those two advances, and the most recent, in 1992, or most recently in 1992, I guess you might say, when we beat back the attack on our retirement fund, as we're talking about today, also as we see a threat to the funding of teachers' retirement, as we did in 92 when we beat that back. And then in 2005, when we got the bonding necessary for our retirement fund so that the security of our retirement for all teachers and you in this room and our colleagues in the classroom are now secure over the years until we do retire. So those issues, those challenges we've met forthrightly, and we've overcome them and been successful. Along the way, there have been challenges, and I don't want to say failures, just successes yet to be made. Because when you turn and walk away, you've lost. When you turn and re-strategize and think about how I'm going to get to that goal, you haven't lost. You've just recommitted yourself to what's right for students, teachers, and public education. And that's what we do. That's what we always have done. And that's what makes us so remarkably powerful at the Capitol. That we're not there annually for one thing and then we go away. We're there all the time advocating for students, teachers, and public education. We don't go away. There's no short session for us. There's no long session for us. There's 365 days for us. And that's literally what we do when we advocate for ourselves, our profession, and the students we teach. We have a tremendous challenge today, as you know. The challenge today is budgetary in nature. You see it in the newspapers every day, the deficit that we have in the state of Connecticut. And we could walk away and we could wring our hands and we could say, oh my God, what's going to happen? But we choose not to. We never will. We activated ourselves to meet with our legislators, to meet with community leaders, to form coalitions with people that at times we normally are at odds with, but we've united around certain issues, number one being the funding of public education, so that this budget doesn't find its way into the classrooms, so that our students can, in effect, be shielded from the budget cuts that may occur at the state level, or that our property taxpayers will be shielded from the transfers of money because the state continues to abrogate its responsibility to fund teacher retirement. And that cost shift now obviously would have an impact in our classrooms. So when we have that rally, and you're familiar with it, hopefully you're going to attend. There's 310 people here. If you brought a carload of 5 or got on a bus, we'd have over 1,500 people with our colleagues on the Federation having their colleagues to show that we're united, not about just funding our teacher retirement system and the cost shift, but we're united around funding public education. They need to be reminded, they need to be held accountable, because other people have money at the Capitol, but we have the passion and we have the people. They don't. They don't. And if we have the passion and we have the people and we have the commitment to public education, no amount of money from a high-priced lobbyist that some of these corporate reformers have will defeat us. It's just not going to happen. The legislative leaders know that because they never want to see us jam up the hallways like we did in 1992 when they were going to take away our cost of living increase on the retirement fund. So when we have that rally and we have our successes like we did with Keep the Promise back in 2008, I believe, to keep your promise, which is this one, I think we're going to have our message made loud and clear, and I'm sure there are going to be legislators there to commit to us that they believe in us and they are not going to sacrifice public education, and they're going to do the right thing regarding this state budget relative to either balancing it appropriately with revenue increases, but not just cuts to the fabric of our society and our classrooms. And then, of course, after this year, which I hope we can be successful on, I may be gone by then because it could last until Christmas. Good luck, Don. But the reality is this: facing us in the next year and the challenges ahead are going to be even more important. You're familiar with the most recent Supreme Court nomination. We're in the Betsy DeVos era. We're not going to escape it, but we need to fight it. Her tentacles and her beliefs and those of the president are going to reach Connecticut. Maybe not so much as other states, but they will reach us, and we have to resist it. And that resistance has to be as collective as our resistance is for our retirement, for our students. Because if we don't, and we allow those philosophies of educate the best and forget about the rest, if we allow that to occur in Connecticut, we are doomed. We will have lost our soul and our commitment to our profession. So we need to recommit ourselves next year as we move forward, because the challenges from the Supreme Court, who will overturn a Bood case, for those of you that are not familiar with that, in effect, overturning the ability for agency fee that will challenge us as a union, because outside forces will try to strip away every union member that's in the classroom today and say, you don't need the union, you don't need to pay those dues. Why are you paying those dues? Just join our professional association and forget about the collective activity of this union. They will be there. They will be there. I reminded my staff colleagues that in 1979, we had a 67% membership. We had no agency fee then. When the agency fee law was passed in 1979 in Connecticut, basically what it did was allowed us to negotiate agency fee in the state, which said that they had a choice of being a member or a non-member, but if they chose to be a non-member, they still had to contribute to the negotiations and the collective action of the union. That's called agency fee. Well, at the time we did that, and I was in East Hartford as the local president then, it was 67% membership statewide relative to the eligible members we had. Right now, we're at 99%. 99%. Now, the 99% mark is due largely because of you and because of our message in getting out there. But the challenges now are, we're not going to have the agency fee law. We're going to have people being able to just say, I'll benefit from everything, I just don't want to be a member. That possibility exists. So we need to recommit ourselves collectively to one another. It's not about the union, it's about us. We need to have a mission for public education and for each other. And once we recommit ourselves, which we will be required to do, and that's why this organization has worked so hard this year with its staff and talking to governments about how do we position ourselves for this new era, what I call a post-Friedrichs era, because that's the court case that will be brought that will overturn Abood. So we need to recommit ourselves and restructure ourselves and look at how do we make sure that we're valuable to each and every member that's out there? We need to make sure we are. We need to make sure that we all commit to the same cause as we have in the past. And I think that if we do it, we have a year. And Don, I feel confident that Don can do it with the present leadership. We have the year to prepare for the eventuality of that court case coming from the Supreme Court. So as we face the challenges as a union and as an organization for the 40 years that I've been involved, the next 40 years won't be absent challenges. They'll be different. They'll be new. And they even may be more challenging. It brings along new leaders. It brings along a new vibrancy. It brings along a new commitment that's necessary. You know, I leave fulfilled only because I look at the mirror and I say, did you leave things better than when you found them? That's it. No legacy, no anything. That's the way I think. But I also leave confident that under the present leadership and future leadership of this organization, with Executive Director Don Williams and the tremendous staff that we have and will have, are going to retain the vibrancy of this union and the commitment that we have for public education. I'll be there as an advocate. I'll be there in capacities that may be different, but I'll never lose my passion. I'll never lose my advocacy. I'll just be doing it from a different seat. So I wish you well tonight and in the future, and please, please, let me see you on the 18th. And as my plea also is, as the challenges get harder or more difficult, recommit yourselves, as difficult as it is. Recommit yourself. Because I know you get up at 5, some of us, and you're not home till 5, and you don't have time. But sometimes there has to be time. So I'm asking, pleading with you, as I have in the past, that when the challenges are there, and when the commitment is needed, that not only you as an individual step up to help, but also encourage your colleagues to do the same, because the passion we all have inside of this room and across the thousands of classrooms are the same. They're absolutely the same. So I appreciate those kind words from Sheila, and as I said, I feel great about the opportunity to have served, and not fully successful as all of my ventures have been, but again, fulfilled that I believe I left things better than when I saw them. Thank you.
Every once in a while, I get to do something unilaterally. This time, there was a method behind the madness concerning the decision that I am about to share with you. Mark is a very private person. He doesn't like to admit it. He likes attention, but he doesn't like forced attention. He's really not fond of attention being forced upon him. And if he knew what I am about to do, he would have given me, as he would say, some fakakta reason for why he needed to stay home tonight. And I was not about to let that happen. And I'll spell fakakta for you later. And so I believe that most of you now know that after almost 5 decades, Mark is retiring, and that his last day at CEA, or with CEA at least in this capacity, will be June 30th. He absolutely refused to have a retirement recognition of any kind, and Mark can be pretty stubborn. But for those of you who know me pretty well, you know that he has met his match when it comes to stubborn, which at times is my middle name. Well, Mr. CEA icon, former East Hartford president, former CEA treasurer, former CEA president, former chief of policy for Governor Lowell Weicker, former UNICEF representative, former CEA government relations manager, and now almost former CEA executive director. It is my humbling and distinct honor to present you with a new CEA award, one that may indeed only be given one time, who knows? But it is with pride, with admiration, with respect, with love, and with privilege that I present to Mark the very first Mark D. Waxenberg Lifetime Achievement Award.
What is it, a bathing suit?
Not a bathing suit. He gave me the stink eye when he got up, didn't he? He does that all the time. I almost put a picture of you giving me the stink eye up on the screen. So it says, CEA Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Mark D. Waxenberg in recognition of a lifetime of advocacy, outstanding vision, unwavering dedication, and commitment to the teachers, students, and public education, May 5th, 2017.
Thank you. She's right. If I knew this was going to happen, I would have stayed home. Thank you very, very much.
These moments only come, they're very few and far between in terms of the importance and the impact that an individual can make on the lives not only of those of us and our working conditions, but also the lives of the students and their learning conditions. That whether he believes it or not, he has left a huge legacy.